Hey, I'm talking to Jim Gray. Jim, what's your company?
It's Optimized Media Group.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a group of engineers that help some of the smaller stations around central Minnesota and the Twin Cities area.
Yeah. So you were talking about, as engineers, finding operational efficiencies.
Right.
Helping radio stations that are, maybe they're spending too much on something that they have for years, figure out a better way.
Yeah, people in radio, a lot of management want to look at their working systems and say, why do I want to change this? Why do I want to fix this? It's working. There's no reason to change anything there.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, what I look at is to say, well, that's great, but is there a better way of doing this? Can we find a way of saving some money and maybe even getting better service, or at least getting the same level of service and cutting your monthly bill for, like, for example, phone systems. Old phone systems that maybe you're leasing the phones or something like that that's costing you far too much. Instead, there's so many different options out there that can reduce your monthly bill by $700,000-800,000 a month maybe.
Wow. Well, this is a popular subject around the Telos Alliance because we're helping people to convert over to SIP VoIP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do that, though, it's a little bit scary because a lot of stations or a lot of engineers are finding out, well, to really save money, I need to take ownership of maybe an asterisk phone system. How do you help engineers into that process, or do you end up managing that yourself, or what?
Well, we'll give them the option. It depends on what level of service that they think that they need. If you are really trying to pinch stuff down, absolutely. Roll your own phone system, asterisk servers, go for it. Or there's turnkey like Grandstream systems out there that are out there. It's going to cost you probably 2 to 3 times as much, still cheaper likely than your existing systems.
Yeah.
But there's a turnkey system that doesn't take any management.
Wow. Now, and how about equipping a station with new phones, voice over IP phones? Mm-hmm. At my stations in Mississippi, we bought a bunch of Grandstream phones, inexpensive from Amazon. I thought they were inexpensive, but there's apparently a big used market in VoIP phones.
Absolutely, and you can find good quality, even Cisco level phones that will work with asterisk servers.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have the Cisco phone system to go with them all the time. Be careful. Sometimes it matters what firmware they're running and things like that.
Yeah.
But there is a decent sized used phone system or phone market out there.
Okay.
So I'm buying lots of 20 and 25 phones for under $100.
Wow. I kind of wish I'd shopped around or asked you first. I mean, we feel like we got a good deal, but man, you could have saved more.
Well, you can buy new single line VoIP phones for $40 right now.
Yeah.
So, the used system, the used market has to be well below that. So I think the fact that there's good new stuff out there is driving the used market way down.
So how might an engineer look into this possibility? Of course, they could call you and get some consulting, but I guess what I'm asking is, what do you got to be careful of? What just doesn't work with what? Can you give me an example?
Well, sure. The current example I just talked about, the firmware version on some Cisco phones only works with Cisco gear.
Oh, it won't work with an asterisk system, for example.
Right. Okay. So you have to know what you're getting into, otherwise you buy a bunch of phones that are absolutely useless to you. So know that you're getting a system that is going to be universally applicable. I'll use asterisk as an example, but and then having the right hardware to put with that and the right routers. You need to have at least a level 2 router that's handling all this, so you can QoS some of the phone traffic over everything else in your plant and stuff like that. So you can accidentally run into some of these problems, but none of them are insurmountable.
What do you think, what do you advise stations about doing a hosted PBX in the cloud somewhere else versus having their own equipment on site?
I like the idea of having your own equipment on site. Especially with the modern systems that are out there. Yes, the hosted systems are cheaper, and they're being managed by somebody else, and you're paying for that management.
Yeah, sure.
So you're losing that operational efficiency, which is the mantra of our company, is I'm going to find a way of paying for what it's going to cost you to hire me and what I'm going to save you off of your miscellaneous monthly bills or your engineering costs and things like that.
Is it fair to say that if you're thinking about going with a hosted phone service that charges you per seat, you could probably save a lot of money over that?
Yeah, absolutely. And leasing equipment is always a terrible idea as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Per seat charges and leased equipment charges are the first thing that I start peeling off, because how much for how much it costs you to buy a new piece of equipment, and let alone trying to find some of the good used stuff, but finding a new piece of equipment, it's just not worth it in the long run.
Gotcha. So besides saving money on telephony, which of course Telos Alliance, we're big on that, helping people. You know what happens a lot is we help people move their on-air phone system from POTS or T1 into a VoIP situation with a Telos VX system, and that prompts the station to say, hey, maybe we really should finally change our business phone system over to something that's going to cost us less, for the SIP lines coming in. Besides a phone system, are there any other likely targets, low-hanging fruit that you've helped stations save money with?
There are a few here and there. Now we're moving into some of the bigger gear.
Yeah.
The cost of running tube transmitters right now, the amount of staff that you have to have if you're, especially as a multi-station cluster or ownership group. So having modern equipment that has a lower cost of entry, which it's getting pretty cheap to get, a good quality transmitter or a good quality studio system. Now, multiply that across your entire facility, and now we don't have the repair costs. We don't have to have as many people on hand to work with this. I don't have to train my people as much because it's more sensible. And all of a sudden, we now have more capabilities. I can actually do more, and it doesn't really cost me anymore.
Gotcha. You seem like the kind of guy who'd be using a lot of remote access to service, make changes, make routing changes, and set up a microphone a different way, perhaps.
Absolutely. We do a lot of work with SNMP and monitoring devices and things like that. Okay, now add that to the monitoring is one thing, control is another. So that remote site management and facility management. It's all part of this cost savings and efficient way of doing business.
We're talking here with Jim Gray, and Jim's pretty interesting. He's got a lot of great ideas. We're going to have Jim Gray on This Week in Radio Tech coming up probably in, early December sometime?
December sometime.
Yeah, sometime in December. So when it's cold outside and he's in his office, keeping his toes warm by the fire, we're going to have Jim on This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack. We're at the Wisconsin Broadcasters Clinic for the Telos Alliance.